All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. So I'm sure we'll have some people join us here a little bit later into the session, but we'll go ahead and get started for those of us that are here and on time. First of all, my name is Mark Munson. I'm Vice President of Business Development here at Ace Micro, and I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedules to join us today. We're going to be covering the wonderful world of Microsoft Dynamics GP licensing and some of the promos that are available out from Microsoft when it comes to your current GP annual renewal licensing and transitional promos if you're contemplating a migration to Business Central. Also, some of the services that are available for those migrations as well. So we got a lot to cover here in the hour that we have allocated. If you have questions during the session, feel free to enter them into the chat. We'll try to respond to those during the session itself, or we may hit the remainder of them at the end when we have some Q&A. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. A couple of administrative notes just to let you know we will be recording. First of all, I've got everybody on mute, just to kind of keep the background noise down. We've got a decent sized group here today. So I have everybody on mute, but it doesn't mean you can't respond or ask questions in the chat section. And then two, we're going to be recording this session so that if you need to come back and review it, or if you want to share it with any of your coworkers, you can certainly do so. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So if we look at the agenda for today, as I mentioned, we're going to be covering the different types of Microsoft annual renewals that are out there at a high level. So I'll be covering those. Then we'll get into some of the promotions that are in market now and that you can take advantage of if you're current on your annual renewal. And then lastly, some service offerings and assistance that Ace Micro combined with Microsoft can offer. Then again, we'll open it up for Q&A at the end of the session. So let's go ahead and get started. And again, don't get overwhelmed by this. When we start getting into Microsoft licensing, there's one thing that Microsoft does and does very well, which is make their licensing sometimes quite complicated. So we're going to try to do the best we can today on getting into the different license, annual renewal types and license types and transitional SKUs that are out there. So first, we're going to talk about some of the SKUs that you might be currently on. So we're going to cover each one of those. My recommendation at the end of the session, again, is to reach out to your account executive here with ACE to talk about your specific situation. But we're going to kind of cover some of the different ones just so you have a sense of what they are and potentially where you are and what seems to be the most logical next steps. So with that, we're going to get into Business Ready Enhancement Plan. Okay, and so this is the original annual renewal plan when you first bought Microsoft Dynamics GP. So when you first bought Dynamics GP, you paid for your licenses, for your on-premise licenses, and there was a value associated with all the different licenses you bought. And you paid that first year as well as ongoing years a percentage of that purchase so that you could maintain your licensing. Okay. And so what did Business Ready Enhancement Plan, or as we lovingly call it, BREP, provide you? Well, it provided you, by paying that annual fee, access to new versions and new features of the software. If you'd stopped paying that fee and a new release of Dynamics GP came out, you were not eligible for it. So that was one of the primary benefits. Other benefits included the ability to add additional user licenses. So if you stopped paying that fee and you needed to add one more license, you couldn't do it. And so that's what we've always promoted, that you needed to make that annual investment to maintain the integrity of the solution that you had in place. Other things, there was some Microsoft e-learning capabilities out there, knowledge base. It kept you at a protected list price. So if you paid X amount of dollars for your licensing and Microsoft did an increase, that increase wouldn't apply to your annual renewal, and that percentage, that price was kind of locked in for the life of that investment. And then it also provides some transitional investment credits, which is what we're going to talk about. Microsoft was always big that on if you maintained that annual enhancement, then as opportunities came up for you to transition to other solutions, those options would be available to you. If you are not current on your BREP plan, these transitional SKUs that I'm going to be referencing are not applicable to you. You can't take advantage of them. So that was another big reason for staying current with your BREP annual enhancement. And that's something that ACE bills all of our clients for, typically on an annual basis, depending on what your purchase date was. And you paid that on an annual basis, then we in turn paid Microsoft on your behalf. And again, when you originally bought GP, that's what was available to you. And a lot of you are still on that, which is fine. But there are other options that are out there and available to us now. And that's what we're going to talk about. Obviously, Microsoft has a big push on moving Dynamics GP clients to the cloud. And the appropriate solution for that is Business Central. Okay, so that is the equivalent of GP in the cloud. Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central is the formal name of it. And several years back, as an incentive to GP clients, Microsoft introduced what's called a CSP BREP renewal. Okay, and so BREP, as we all know, stands for Business Ready Enhancement Plan. CSP is Cloud Solutions Provider. They love their acronyms, and so it's the CSP BREP renewal. This was offered out right around when COVID hit, and so there was a couple of reasons why Microsoft, in my mind, put this transitional offer in place. One was to help companies during that period of time, reduce capital spending. So instead of getting, and I'm just throwing examples out here, let's just say your annual renewal was $12,000 for the year. So instead of having to write a check for $12,000 in one specific month, whenever your renewal month was, you were able to take that $12,000 and spread it out over a 12-month period. So in a sense, you could turn around and pay $1,000 per month over the 12 months, therefore freeing up some cash. And cash was obviously, as we were in COVID, extremely important to a lot of organizations that were just trying to figure out how they were going to react to that. It also, was another incentive for those clients on GP to start thinking about making the move to Business Central. And as an incentive, Microsoft gave a 60% discount on retail price. So as we converted your what you paid, the equivalent of what you paid for Dynamics GP, we were able to calculate out at a discount of 60% the number of licenses of BC you would be eligible for. So it was a pretty significant discount. They were also matching 1 to 4 concurrent users to named users. So in the GP world, just to refresh everybody's memory, you had concurrent users. So if you had 10 licenses of GP, you could theoretically have 12, 14 people with the ability to log into GP. They might have credential to log in, but once you consume those 10 licenses, the 11th person couldn't get in. And so with concurrent licensing, if somebody else, one of the 10 dropped out, that 11th person could get in. Another person drops out, the 12th person could get in. That's concurrent licensing. As we go to the cloud, and not just with Microsoft, but with really all cloud-based solutions, the concurrent model goes away, and we go to a named user license. And so if you had, again, 12 or 14 people that needed access to the system in some form or fashion, you have to have 12 or 14 licenses, named user licenses. So Microsoft realized that for some companies that was going to be a little bit of a stretch, because they might have some additional users that they, were getting the benefit of access to the system without a license. And so they gave us the ability to provide some zero-based or zero-cost licenses to make up for that. And so they offered that up as well. So 60% discount, some additional zero-based or zero-cost licenses that gave you the ability to then, have dual use rights. So you continue on with GP. You've got these licenses of Business Central out there that were converted over to the 60% discount. You might have some free ones available to you as well. And it gave you the opportunity to to start thinking about making that transition. While you're on GP, you still have full enhancement plan benefits while you continue to run GP. And this was kind of what I call no harm, no foul type offer. So if you took this promo, and the promo itself was a 3-year period, if you move to Business, if you move to Business Central, great. If you didn't, no harm, no foul. You could fall back to your normal BREP renewal, annual renewal, again, with no penalties, no gotchas, no nothing. So it was a pretty attractive, for the first promo they had out there, a very, very attractive promotion. And we had several of our clients take us up on this, of which several of them have moved to Business Central. There are others that took this promo and have not moved to Business Central. And those promos, that 3-year term is now coming to expiration. The first of our clients started to expire in December of last year and will expire out through November of this year. And so the question is, where do we go from here? And I'll talk more about that here in a second. And again, this promo is no longer available. It was offered 3 years ago. It was offered for a 12-month period. So it's no longer in marketplace, but some of you may be on this promo, and there's going to be some decisions that need to be made throughout the year, depending on when your renewal is, as to what's the next step. So we'll talk more about some of those options here in a second. So that's CSP BREP, first promo that Microsoft put out there, a transitional promo. So the second year, then Microsoft came out with what they called the Bridge to Cloud promo. And it was called Bridge to Cloud promo at first, then it was called the Bridge to Cloud 1 promo, because unbeknownst to us, they came out with a second one. So on the Bridge to Cloud 1 promo, and this came out about 2 years ago. Again, it allowed you to spread your payments out on a monthly basis, like we talked about before, eliminating the need to pay an annual lump sum, although some of our clients like to pay just that lump sum and not worry about it. The discount went from 60% on the conversion of licenses down to 40%. So there's still a nice reduction from retail price, but it went from 60 to 40, so a little bit less of a discount to existing clients. They also changed up the matching licenses, the $0 licensing, where before we could pretty much, provide you with really as many licenses at zero cost as we needed. It was a 1-to-4 ratio. They went down to a 1-to-2 ratio in this promotion, but only when your monthly license cost doubled. Okay, so that's something you want to keep in mind, is that, again, my example of I paid $12,000 a year for my BREP. I want to move it to monthly payments. So now I'm paying $1,000 a month for 12 months. And in the CSP BREP promo, I could get, even at the $1,000, a month for 12 months, I could get additional zero cost users. Only if your monthly cost went to $2,000 a month, could you now qualify for these $0 licenses. So that was a pretty big gotcha in our mind, that they kind of took that benefit away, because in most cases, the likelihood that you need to double up the number of named licenses over concurrent was pretty small. So it felt like they took a lot away there, and in my mind, they really did. It still allowed, obviously, the dual rights use. So if you went into the Bridge to Cloud promo, Bridge to Cloud 1 promo, you continued on working in GP, and you started making your plans knowing that you had the licensing out there for Business Central. And when you made that move, that licensing was there. And the license cost was kind of already being paid for by this monthly payment you were now making. Again, full enhancement plan benefits for your current on-premise solutions. So for GP, fully supported while you make this transition. And the Bridge to Cloud initial promo, Bridge to Cloud 1 promo, was a 4-year compared to 3-year term. So it gave you a little bit more time, but it also had one stickler in there, and this is a stickler that continues, is that it's a one-way transition path. So with CSP Rep, as I mentioned, it was kind of a no harm, no foul. You went on the promo, you did it for 3 years, you're still on GP, you just fall back to your normal GP Rep enhancement. This one said, nope, this is one way. You enroll in this promo, you have to be off of GP within that 4-year period. Okay, so the expectation that was set by Microsoft is that you're going to move, and you're going to move within that 4-year period. And so there was no way back. And that was another thing where we're sitting there going, oh, okay, it's just getting a little bit more intense now as far as Microsoft's desire to get clients to make some sort of commitment. I had several clients that signed up for this promo, and this promo obviously goes out, and I don't think it starts to expire until sometime next year, I believe, maybe even the year beyond that. But we're monitoring that here at ACE. Obviously, we've got all the end dates for our clients, and as we get closer to, we're typically talking to you around renewal time anyway, but as we get closer to some of these things expiring, we're reaching out to you and kind of providing guidance along those areas. So that was the Bridge to Cloud 1 promo. Microsoft then turned around and came out with, oops, I think I skipped a slide here. Nope, I'm going to talk about that in here in a second. So there was one other promotion that was out there that was still on the Dynamics price list, the old price list for on-premise software. And this was something that we looked at internally and said, okay, well, you've got this CSP Rep promo, you have this Bridge to Cloud 1 promo. What happens if they expire? Okay, what do clients do then? And we saw this one promo that was about to expire. It was late June of last year, end of Microsoft's fiscal year last year. And it was this little known promo out there that we looked at it and said, okay, if clients have not signed up for one of these promos, and we don't know if any more promos are coming because Microsoft doesn't always share that with us. And if you expire on one of your current promos, where does that leave you? And so we saw this promotion out there, which was not a transitional promo, but truly a replacement purchase. Okay. And so we went out and talked to as many clients as we possibly could to say, look at this as an insurance policy. Buy one license of Dynamics 365 Business Central, and you're going to get that license at a 40% discount, just like you were in the Bridge to Cloud 1 promo. So you'll get the 40% discount. You continue to pay your annual enhancement. So the additional cost above and beyond what you're normally paying is this, basically $42 per user per month. That's the discounted price for Business Central Essentials. And so it was like an insurance policy to say, okay, not sure what I'm doing yet, not sure what Microsoft's doing yet. Let me buy this one license just to maintain my 40% discount. And the thing that we liked about it is that there was no penalties. Okay, if you didn't transition to Business Central, you didn't have this, you weren't making a commitment to Microsoft that I'm moving. I'm absolutely moving, and there's no way back. I've blown up the bridge behind me, and I'm not going back to GP. It also didn't lock you into the license counts that the promos did, because in the promos, even if you calculated out the number of BC licenses and said, oh, I don't really need the equivalent of $1,000 a month, I can get away with less licenses, therefore it's $800 a month. Well, under those promos, it didn't work that way. You had to spend $1,000, actually $1,000.01 to be exact. So we saw this promo out there, and we reached out to a lot of our clients and said, hey, let's put this out there as a safety net, because we just don't know where these promotions are going, if there's going to be more promotions, if they're going to be more restrictive. And so we thought this was a good option for a lot of our clients, and a lot of our clients have taken advantage of it and still have this promotion. Now, they have come out with some more promotions, and the promotions we'll talk about here in a second continue to have some restrictions. So for some of our clients, maintaining this one license is still a good idea. For others, other clients that know for sure that, hey, we're going to move in the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, then maybe we can drop this license. But again, that's a conversation you need to have with your account executive just to see what makes sense. But we felt like for the nominal amount of dollars per month, that this was a nice, like I said, we positioned it as an insurance policy. But again, this is no longer available. It expired June of last year. So those were really the promos we've seen historically. And again, all of those promos are no longer in market, but you may be on one of those promos. And as they come up to end of life, then we'll need to make some decisions as to what are the appropriate next steps. As far as appropriate next steps, let me talk to you about some of the promos that are in market now and still available. Okay, so we're going to go through 3 of them. Bridge to Cloud 2, as I mentioned, we didn't know the first one was 1, so they came out with the Bridge to Cloud 2 promo. They just recently, within probably the last 30 days, dropped this, what we call the CSPEP promo. And then there's always, hey, I can just buy it full price if I want to, and that's always an option. So let's go into those a little bit further. So the Bridge to Cloud 2 promo. This is the promo that is in market through the end of this calendar year. And how does this differ from the Bridge to Cloud 1 promo? Well, it takes away the monthly payments and requires you to make an annual lump sum payment at this point. And I'll explain more about that here in a second. The discount's the same. It's still a 40% discount as compared to it. The zero cost user licenses, it's the same, but it's kind of a moot point because it really, only kicks in once you double your monthly expenditure, or the equivalent of a monthly expenditure. Still allows for, dual use rights. So it gives you the opportunity to continue on with GP as you plan the migration to Business Central. Still have your enhancement plan benefits. It's a 3-year promo. So they went from 4 years back to 3 years on this promotion. And again, it's a one-way transition. Once you sign up for this transition, you're making a commitment to Microsoft that you're going to be off of Business Central, off of GP within a 3-year period. This one has teeth though, okay? If you take this promotion, you are committing to Microsoft, you're going to be off of GP within 3 years. And if you don't, and you still want to run GP, you're going to be penalized for those 3 years at 19% of your system's list price. So if your renewal again is $12,000, multiply that by 3 years, that's $36,000. Whatever 19% of 36 is, can't do the math in my head right now. That would be the penalty for going back and reverting back to GP. And we saw this as really not attractive. And again, that's one of the reasons why we came out and talked to so many clients about buying that one policy or that one license, is because this one had some big teeth in it. The other teeth that this one has in it is more from a partner standpoint. And the reason this has gone to an annual lump sum versus the monthly is that Microsoft said, and oh, by the way, if a client signs up for this promo for 3 years and a year later decides they don't want to do it anymore, a year later they decide they're going to go to another solution, whatever the case may be, the partner was responsible for the full 3 years. And so in meetings with other partners, this promotion was not widely accepted, and it continues not to be widely accepted because of that and that alone, is that partners are not in a position to be able to take the risk. First of all, if a partner would go to you and say, gee, you can go on this promo, but you need to pay your next 3 years renewal up front. Well, there's, none of our clients are going to do that. They're going to look at me and just laugh. You're not going to pay 3 years up front. So most of the partner channel really has not promoted this promo because we feel like it's not fair to the client and we feel like it's not fair to the partner. So this promo has really gone on deaf ears and will continue to go on deaf ears until Microsoft comes out with something a little bit different. All right. So moving on to the one that was just announced within the last 30 days, the CSPEP promo. So this promo came out specifically because the CSP BREP promo that I mentioned first, that was the first promo that came into market, started to expire in December of last year. And so Microsoft realized, oh, these clients, that they have, their primary option is just to revert back to BREP, revert back to their normal GP annual renewal. And Microsoft really wanted to continue to provide kind of a path forward for those clients that were expiring on this and still hadn't made the transition to Business Central. So this promo is intended to kind of extend the CSP BREP promo that's expiring now. So your choice, if you're on CSP BREP and it's coming up for expiration, is to go back to BREP and say, you know what, we're just going back to GP and we're just going to pay our annual renewal, and we don't want this dual licensing rights and all that fun stuff. Or to renew under this promo. And what this does is it buys you another 2 to 3 years, depending on when your renewal date is. So it buys you another 2 to 3 years and provides that 40% discount that we're hoping for. Again, the $0 licenses costs is still there, but only again if you double your monthly spend. You still have dual license rights, okay? Full enhancement plan benefits for your existing GP on-premise instance. Again, this promo is 2 to 3 years, depending. I think the date is March 31st. If you renew prior to March or before March 31st, you get you get 1 year plus 2 additional years. If it's after March 31st, then you get 1 year plus 1 additional year, okay? This one as well, though, has some teeth, okay? You still have the one-way transition. So if you sign up for this promo, again, you're telling Microsoft that in 3 years, I will be on Business Central, and you're committed to that. And if not, the penalties that we mentioned come back into play. And so you really, really need to think about, how ready you are as an organization to make this change. Now, we're a lot more mature as a community. I think, at least from ACE's perspective, we've been talking to our clients about this transition from GP to BC and just on-premise to the cloud in general. We've been having those conversations for 3 years now. So we're starting to see clients really start to step up and really start to plan. We've already had several handfuls already migrate to Business Central. We probably have another 24 that are in queue over this year to migrate. So we're really starting to see the migration, the desire to migrate increase tremendously on our end. And we expect that just to continue because clients are now realizing, hey, we have to make a change. We need it makes sense for us to make this change. There's just a lot of benefits for our solution to be in the cloud and a lot of just really nice capabilities within Business Central that we don't have necessarily within GP anymore. So we're seeing a lot of clients making that, and if that's the commitment you can make, then the teeth down here really don't matter, but just realize it's there, okay? So again, if you're on the CSP BREP promo, you're coming up for expiration, this is certainly an option for you to look at. And then lastly, there's always, hey, we can just buy it at full price. So this is the published price, full retail price for Dynamics 365 Business Central. Essentials, just so I can explain the difference here, if you're using really most of the majority of the GP function you're using is accounting related. You might have some inventory management, you might have some sales order processing, purchase order processing, some of those types of things. You really can get away with a Business Central Essentials license. And that's $70 per user per month, which I'll touch on that here in a second. The premium license, what it does is it adds 2 things. It adds some heavy manufacturing capabilities, as well as some basically project services capabilities. And what I mean by that is really just kind of like field service capabilities. If you're in that situation, then you may need to go to the premium. There's some basic level manufacturing capabilities and essentials. And for a lot of our clients that are, pretty simple manufacturing or kitting type operations, that would work. But again, that's where we sit and go through and look at what you're doing currently in GP and map you to what the right solution is. But for most of it, it's going to be essentials. And then you have what are called team member licenses. And team member licenses, think of those as kind of read-only licenses. So I've got a full user license over here. That's for users that need to get into the system, and based on their security and their access rights can do, read, write, all those types of things. A team member license is really just for people that just need to read-only access. Now, these prices are quoted at per user per month, but Microsoft has moved to a annual billing method. Okay, so if you pay per user per month, you want the $70 rate, you have to pay for 12 months up front, so $840. If you want the luxury of continuing to be billed monthly, Microsoft is going to charge a 20% upcharge. So if you want to be billed monthly by ACE and by Microsoft, you now pay $84 per user per month, or $120 per user per month for premium, if you want the luxury of paying on a monthly basis. So just keep that in mind when you make these decisions. All right. So covered a lot there, and again, I've got this all recorded. So if you need to go back and refresh it, please let us know. I'm looking in the chat window here, and Susan, I don't see any questions out here. But again, if you do have questions, let us know. So with that, I will continue on with kind of the second half of the presentation here. And this is kind of service offerings and assistance that's out there and available to you. Again, more and more of us are now starting to think about this migration. I've had more conversations, real serious conversations in the last 12 months than I probably have in the last, the prior 36 months. So it's becoming more top of mind for folks. And there's some things out there that Microsoft is, sponsoring and ACE will be executing to help in that process. Because for a lot of people, it's like, oh, okay, move GP to BC. Well, it's pretty easy to say, but it's not so easy to execute. So there's some planning that needs to go into place. And that's where these service offerings come into place. Initially, if you want to start your journey and say, okay, where do we go? How do we start this? How do we start thinking about this? Well, what we have first is, and this is an offer from ACE, is a needs assessment. Okay, very, very simple needs assessment. You meet with your account executive. There's some Q&A that we go through to kind of look at what your current situation is, what the future state is, how that would map across, and so what we're doing is giving you kind of a high level. We'll do some interviewing and then we'll document that. It gives you, the capabilities and building a plan that you can turn around and present and talk to other people within your organization. So the needs assessment is something that we plan with people in finance and people in operations, with senior level management, anyone who's kind of in the system and has some vested interest. And at the end of this, you'll receive an overview of the workshop findings and recommended next steps. Okay, so this is something that we're doing, and we're doing it for free because Microsoft is sponsoring us to do these things. And so I think it's a great first step to at least get a high level roadmap out there. So again, the needs assessment is that first logical step, if you really haven't got into any detailed conversations with us as of yet. In some conversations where we are, or some situations where we already had some conversations, we may revert back to this. So don't be surprised if we come back to you and say, okay, we want to do this now because it's a great way for us to kind of document, what we're trying to do here in the roadmap ahead of us. So that's the first assessment that's available to you. And again, completely free. Once we get through that session, then we can offer up what's called a migration assessment. So this is where we get into a little bit more of the detail. Okay, we're going to be going into functional requirements and how they map. So, if you're using this module in GP, is that available in Business Central? Yes, it is, or no, it's not. And how do we map that? If you're using this third party in GP, do I need it in Business Central? Well, no, I don't, because that's core functionality within Business Central. So I don't need this this third-party ISV anymore. Or I do need it, but that third-party ISV doesn't have a Business Central equivalent. So now we've got to find somebody else that does that. I mean, so we go through that level of functional mapping, technical mapping, third-party ISV mapping. We go through a data assessment. So we come through and run some reports on the data within GP and say, okay, what do we want to do with the data? One, let's make some decisions there. And then two, depending on what our decisions are, what sort of cleanup do we have to take on? Okay, there's data just doesn't come over magically, and the data doesn't always map. You might have situations where the field length of BC is shorter than the field length of GP. How are we going to address that? You may have situations where in BC it's a numeric field, where in GP it was alphanumeric. Okay, how do we address that? We have unclosed transactions that we need to address. So there's just all kinds of data decisions that we have to make, and data cleansing. We almost look at that as almost a prerequisite. But we'll go through that. So after the migration assessment, I mean, you'll be able to truly envision that future state and all the things that we need to think about. We'll set prerequisites. We'll provide you with an estimate. So we actually put together some real numbers as to what this migration might look like from a cost perspective. And again, we're doing all this for free. Microsoft is assisting us in providing this service. So between those two steps, the need assessment and the migration assessment, you'll pretty much have a plan of how to get there, how much it's going to cost, and likely how much time it's going to take to make the move. And again, all of these services are offered up complimentary. So we're excited about being able to engage with our clients at this level to make the transition a little bit more easy. Lastly, and this is for clients that are not on any of the promotions. So the first two services, the needs assessment, the migration assessment, I mean, you can all pretty much sign up for those. Not a big deal. And there's no cost to you. Even when you're on the promos and getting discounted licensing. If you're not on a promo, so let's just say you're still on BREP and you don't have any kind of promo pricing there, any kind of discounted pricing from a transitional SKU, you can qualify potentially for some dollars on your migration. And the dollars that are available to you kind of vary based on what the annual value of your subscription is. So this is a situation where we have to make some decisions as to, is the promo better for us because we're getting a discount over the next 2 years, 3 years, whatever the time frame is, or are we better off just migrating over to a full cost license because we've got some of these dollars out here available to us to help in this migration. When we looked at this and did the math on it, kind of depending on when you plan your transition, it's going to vary. I mean, obviously, the discount on the licensing, you receive the benefit of that over the period of the promotion. So you're saving money, but you're saving it over a 2-year period, 3-year period, whatever that might be. And for some companies, that might be how they want to approach it. The migration services is actual dollars right then and there. Okay, so it's cash in hand, during the extent of the project. So it's current dollar versus future dollar, and the duration. They're pretty similar when you do the math on them, depending again on when you make your move. You might get more discount on your discounted, or you may get more savings on your discounted licensing, or you may be better off on the migration services, dollars that are potentially available to you. So again, that's one of those decisions that's a one-off decision. I can't make a recommendation one way or another for any group of clients. We really have to talk about it on an individual basis, but just know that that's out there as well. But know that you have to be paying full price for that license to qualify for these dollars. All right. So next steps, and I have buzzed through this content a lot quicker than I thought I would, although I've taken about 41 minutes, so that's not too bad. So next steps, as I mentioned, is, again, there's no one size fits all with these transitional promos, with these new purchase SKUs, with these services, do I do needs and migration assessment, or I do dollars to help defer the cost of the migration itself? There's no one answer for everyone. So I really recommend that you reach out to your account executive here at ACE, and we can start, discussing what some of the likely options are for you. I would say that's probably the first discussion. The second one would be, go ahead and sign up for the needs assessment. It doesn't cost you anything, and even if you don't move to Business Central, it doesn't cost you anything. And then after the needs assessment, sign up for the migration assessment. It's kind of a natural continuance of that, and it will give you a lot of the details that probably if you're like me, the devil's in the details. I want to know what that is. The migration assessment. Once we get through the needs and the migration assessment, you're going to have a lot of information to answer your questions and to be able to share with your leadership. And then lastly is get ready to move. Okay, that's what we're expecting the majority of our clients to move in the next 4 years. So when you look and you do the math, that's a lot of clients moving over a short period of time. Or at least 4 years is short in this world. But so you need to start thinking about it sooner versus later, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to wait till the end, because then you're going to be at the end of the line. And I will tell you that within this ecosystem, there's a limited number of consultants and a limited amount of bandwidth. And so you want to make sure that if you've got a target date in mind that you want to make this move, that you're in conversation with us earlier versus later, because our ability just, to say, okay, great, we got the paperwork, we can start tomorrow, is just not there. It's not there with any partner. And it's just not there within the Microsoft ecosystem. So if there's thoughts about making the change, plan ahead, and let's get you guys slotted on the calendar. So with that, I am going to stop the presentation and open it up to any kind of Q&A. I'm going back out here and looking at any kind of questions. So I got a date on GP yet. And the inference there, I guess, is, let me pull this out because it might be more I'm just not seeing. Okay, yeah, there's more. Bear with me a second. Okay, so questions. How long will Microsoft allow on-premise for GP? That seems to be kind of the burning question here. So technically, you have a what's called a non-transferable concurrent perpetual license of Dynamics GP. So technically, you could run GP for the rest of your life and not have a problem with it. Now, would support from Microsoft stop at some point in time? Yes. Even when the support from Microsoft stops, can ACE continue to support you? Yes. I think the bigger question there is, can you maintain an environment to support GP for how long? So what we've seen with clients that, stopped their annual renewals years ago and are running older versions of GP is that it's not whether or not GP still serves their needs, it's whether or not they can keep a server up, they can keep the appropriate Windows Server licensing, SQL Server licensing. There's security concerns because you're not getting security patches. So again, to answer that question, can you run GP for the rest of your career? Absolutely, if you're able to support it, the application itself and the environment it runs on. But I think there's some underlying questions there, which I'll, or comments there, which I'll get to in a second. Cloud licenses concurrent are named. They are named. Most all cloud licenses are going to be named users. So, unlike the old on-premise model that was concurrent, when we move to the cloud, no matter what you're doing in the cloud, it's going to be a named user license. So if Mark's getting in the system, Mark needs a license. If Susan's getting in the system, she needs a license. If Philip's getting in the system, he needs a license. Named user licensing. All right. Has Microsoft announced a drop dead date for GP yet? Microsoft has not come right out and stated that here is a drop dead date. This is, the sunset date for GP. But, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to kind of figure out the writing on the wall. When you look at the product roadmap for Dynamics GP. It takes it out to 2028. It says in the little gray letters there, and beyond. I question and beyond personally. So what we're seeing, what we're hearing is that likely January of 2028 is the sunset date, just based on some other little comments that we've heard from Microsoft, based on some documentation that exists out there, those types of things. We think January 2028 is kind of the sunset date. Microsoft will continue between now and then to release 2 releases of GP per year, a spring release, a fall release, actually 3, a spring release, a fall release, and then the year-end updates. So those will continue out at least through 2027. But if I'm a betting man, I'm thinking January 2028 is probably when the sunset date is. Now, I could be wrong, but that's what we're thinking. Let's see, next question. How long will Microsoft prepare tax updates? Microsoft is committed to continue to prepare tax updates through 2027. Probably the year-end update of 2027. If our best guess is correct, and January 2028 is kind of that sunset time, then I'm not sure if there's going to be a year-end update in 2028. I feel fairly confident there will be a year-end update with any kind of tax or payroll updates in 2027. 2028, I can't speak to the same level of confidence. All right. I think those are all the questions. Yeah, those look to be all the questions that I have out here. So if there's any other questions, let us know. Otherwise, what I am going to do is give everybody 10 or 12 minutes of their day back. So I'm not seeing any more questions at this point. Let me just check the chat one more time. All right, I think that's it. So with that said, I want to thank everybody again for their time today. I know I covered a lot of material. Review the recording. The recording will be released probably sometime tomorrow. We'll send it out to all the attendees sometime tomorrow. Review that, and probably your next logical step is if you have more questions, reach out to your account executive, schedule a call with them, and they can walk through this in a lot more detail. And just know that, as you get closer to your renewals, we'll be reaching out to you as well. We'll be talking to you about these needs assessments and migration assessments. So my suggestion is let's just keep the channels of communication open so that we all know, what we're thinking, what we're planning, and can act accordingly. So with that, I wish everybody a wonderful day. Appreciate your attendance today. Thank you so much.